I brought with me here today an incandescent light bulb. Light bulbs I occasionally have to change. This one I just changed this morning, as a matter of fact. This one is burnt out. And my wife knows that whenever the lights burn out, the light bulbs burn out, that I will change them. She just doesn't know that I'm always going to change them today. Oftentimes I will wait until the second one goes out and change it then, which I did with this one. She knows that promise that I've made many years ago that I will change all the light bulbs is true. And she trusts me that I will change these light bulbs so that we can once again have warm, inviting lights. In our passage today from Genesis, God makes a promise to Abraham. And because God makes the promise to Abraham, Abraham knows it to be true. Because like my wife trusts me and knows that when I say I'm going to do something, it will happen, just not always today, Abram also knew that when God made a promise, it would happen, and probably not today. And that's a part that we all often struggle with, that today part. Getting a promise, knowing something's going to happen, but getting anxious about it, wondering if it's going to happen. And that's something that from God, it kind of tests our faith in Him, doesn't it? That we don't see the results right away. God has set things up, and He has a plan in action, and we have to be patient and wait for it. See, God had blessed Abram already up to this point. But he starts this passage in chapter 15. He says, "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward." But Abram said, "O sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus?" See, God had already blessed Abram with great wealth. God had already blessed Abram by protecting him, helping him. Just if you look back at chapter 14, Abram just got done with a battle where he led 318 soldiers in a battle against thousands. In odds that they never should have been able to win, they won. Because God was with him. But Abram's concern at this point is he has no children. He has no legacy to pass on this great wealth to. He's getting along in years, and he's already been anxiously hoping for a child for years and years and years. Hoping for a legacy, hoping for someone to pass it on, all this stuff on to, his lands, his property, his name. And Abram said, "You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir." He had somebody to pass it on to, but he didn't see it as his legacy. See, many people go through this pain of not being able to have children for long periods of time. It's painful. It's frustrating. Jessica and I took us 5 years for our first baby. That's coming up in just a month or so. But imagine Abram and Sarai, who went decades. So long that you would say it's physically impossible. And so God says to Abram, "This man will not be your heir, but a son coming from your own body will be your heir." He took him outside and said, "Look up at the heavens and count the stars, if indeed you can count them." Then he said to him, "So shall your offspring be." Have you ever just gone outside and looked up at the stars, seen how many there were, just considered a little bit of how insignificant you might be? Douglas Adams, in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, looks at this in this way. There's been created a device for those who have done severe wrongs to be put into this device that gives them perspective. That as they are in this device, they see themselves relative to the whole entire universe. And so that when they see themselves as a little speck to the universe, they go crazy because of how small and insignificant they are. Now, in the story, there's a little bit of a spin, but you have to read the story yourself to be able to see that. But for Abram, he was shown the stars in the sky and said, this is your legacy. You're not going to have just a son, but you're going to have offspring as numerous as the stars in the sky. A great, enduring legacy. Just look up. And Abram believed the Lord, and it was credited to him as righteousness. He believed the Lord. He didn't just believe what he said. He didn't believe just that promise, but his trust is in God himself. That's what the faith is in this section, and that's a faith that we should be looking for in this time of Lent. Not just for what God promises us today, not just for a hope for the next day, but in every day to know that what God said is true and his promises don't change. That for us, we have this written word for us that we're able to look into and know that God's word is true as much today as it was several thousand years ago. And that when God speaks to us, we can trust him as well.